All right, so we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second Doist remote work live chat. My name is Andrew, and I'm a PeopleOps generalist at Doist, and I've been with the company for about 2.5 years now, and I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So part of my role is basically to support the entire employee life cycle, and really support our team in making sure they're thriving and that they are able to perform at their natural best. And with me is my teammate Steven, who has been with Doist for about 6 months now, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi guys, I'm Steven. I am a marketing designer at Doist, and I work on our brand and coming up with our marketing pages for our products, and anything on Twitter and our social media that involves any sort of visual. Yeah, as Andrew said, I've been with the company for 6 months. I live in Chicago, USA, and yeah, that's all about me. I'm performing at my best, thanks to Andrew. A little bit about Doist. We are a software company. We make 2 products, Todoist and Twist. Todoist is a to-do list app and team project management app, and Twist is our team communication app that's built especially for asynchronous communication, and it's really great for remote teams like us. So yeah, we've been remote for. Oh, Andrew, you can.
Oh, sure. So we've been remote for about 12 years now, and over the past months, of course, we've seen the impact of COVID-19 on the world, and especially on our workers. At least some have lost jobs, and many companies have had to freeze their hiring, as we have had for a while now. But many companies are still hiring and onboarding, and now having to do so remotely. So we just wanted to take some time today and really share some of our experiences with managing employee onboarding in a remote setting. And we're a team of 77 with people in 31 different countries. So we've spent a lot of time experimenting and making mistakes and really finding a lot of practices that have worked well for us. So we're currently live on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send them throughout the call, and we'd be happy to answer as many as we can over this next period of time. So our first question is, how has the remote onboarding experience at Doist changed over time? And that's a great question. So many of, and I can actually speak to when I started at Doist 2.5 years ago, because the experience that I had was very positive, but it was also very pared down compared to what it is today. So we had similar components such as our mentoring process, where we pair up each newcomer with someone experienced in the company to really provide that guidance and be that go-to person to support them as they're getting started. And when I joined, I was given an onboarding Todoist project that basically had a bunch of lists of tasks for things that I would do within the first week and over the course of my onboarding. And at the time, I actually remember being pretty nervous about that, because I wasn't sure how many of these tasks I would have to finish within my first week or within a particular period of time. So since then, we've really improved these tools that we've given each person when they join to provide more detail, more context, and kind of provide a better outline of what their work will look like over those first few months.
Yeah, I can say from experience working with this new sort of refined version of the Todoist project, it was really, really helpful, especially when you're in a remote setting and you're not physically with like a person who's saying, okay, it's your second day. Today we're going to work on this to get you situated. So having like a very organized agenda, not like by hour, but just like, on your second day, maybe you should try to accomplish this, like read this document about the company and that sort of thing. Providing that like structure for the new person helps a lot, especially when you're not with people. So you're like, what should I be doing right now? It's my first day and I'm all alone. Having that was really beneficial.
All right, so our next question is, from a new hire perspective, was there something special or surprising in Doist's onboarding process? I'll let you take that one, Steven.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of special things. I think you guys do, or we do a great job of, like I was just talking about, like making it possible to feel like you know what you should be doing. So the Todoist project, like super organized and well documented, was very helpful. There was something that was a surprise, was that we do a welcome gadget as part of the experience. So you get a budget to spend on any sort of tool or gadget that you want. It doesn't even have to be related to work. Andrew, you I think mentioned that some people like buy sewing machines. I used it to like help pay off a phone that I had recently purchased. So that was a really nice surprise. There is the mentorship program that you were talking about. Part of that is Doist pays for a trip for the mentor and the mentee to meet up in person. Fortunately, I didn't actually get to experience that because of the COVID situation, but I've heard from other people that it's really great just to help you feel like you are part of something real and you're not just like interacting with strangers on the internet, to spend some time working together and just hanging out together, getting to know someone at the company. But yeah, even without that, just like having the mentor figure, my mentor was Ben, who's a product designer, who's been at the company for about 2 years, I believe, or maybe 1 year. And just having like a point of contact to go to and feel safe to ask questions and talk about what I've worked on during the week and hear from him, his experience, made me just feel very welcome, which was a great experience.
All right, so we have a question from Chief Remote, who asks, do you ever do in-person onboarding, or is it always done remotely? That's a great question. So our onboarding process is actually designed to work fully remotely. So there's never any, there's never any point where we expect that anything is going to happen in person. The mentoring trip is probably the one exception where, we see it as a really nice perk and a great opportunity to get our newcomers socializing with someone within the company and their mentors, since they're going to spend so much time with them. But even without that experience, and in some cases, some people may choose not to go on their mentoring trip. And the process is designed to work fully remotely from start to finish. All right, so our next question is, how do you personalize the remote experience so it's not impersonal? There are a number of things actually that we do to make sure that that's the case, because I think a lot of times onboarding can come off as checklists and a lot of bureaucratic stuff and paperwork and things like that. I think the first thing that we do, which is very simple, is making sure that any materials that are involved in the process, or that Todoist onboarding project I mentioned, and any resources that we're providing our team members are personalized to their use. So a very simple example within that onboarding project is that there's a task in there to remind each person to use their birthday perk during their birthday month, and that's just a small gift to spend on a dinner. And something as simple as just customizing that task to that person's birthday month is a pretty insignificant thing at face value, but I think it shows that, we've taken the time to make this, for them especially. The other thing that we do that I think is even more important than the materials is prioritizing the interactions between people. So we see a lot of obviously it can be very nerve-wracking to join a team and not feel like you're connected with them directly. So prioritizing those opportunities where on their first day they get a welcome thread where I'll introduce them to the company, and everyone starts to comment and introduce themselves and share where they're from and what they do at Doist, and having those opportunities to meet people that way, as well as within the first week meeting with me, with their mentor and their team head. And then our monthly casual hangouts as well. Across all of these different kind of more people-focused opportunities, we really try to get that personal and social interaction, right from the beginning.
Yeah. Just to add one thing that I think another thing that made it really great was one of the tasks was for like the first day or the first week is to write 10 fun facts about you and share it publicly to the whole company. And was really great because it's a way for you to like express your personality a bit in a like way that everyone can see it and start to understand who you are. But especially when, if you're using Slack or Twist or any other type of team communication tool, it can be very intimidating to like just start a thread or just like post something without being prompted the first week. So that was a great way. I was like, this is a thing that everyone expects me to be doing. I get to talk about myself and people can relate to me based on the things that I've written and start conversations that way. So having that structure in place was made it much more personal.
Yeah. All right. So our next question is, how does a first day at a co-located company differ from one at a remote company? I think I'll let Stephen take that one first.
Okay. Yeah. I did like comparing this to my last work experience, which was in an office setting. Something for me that was a big difference starting at Doist was that there's no expectation or pressure to like also start your first day, but also be socializing with your coworkers. Like the 10 facts about me was kind of like the extent of what was expected that first week. But I just remember like from previous experiences of like, I'm in the office on the first day, I'm trying to get situated with my computer and my applications, but I'm also trying to make friends and like appear cool. And it's a lot to like handle and balance on that first couple days. So in a remote setting, you are much, especially one where it's expected to be asynchronous and you can kind of work at your own pace that first week. Made a big difference for me. In fact, fun story. I didn't actually say this, but on my first day, I went to the library downtown and I dropped my computer charger in water. I got it wet. And so I spent like an hour and a half like dealing with that and buying a new one. And nobody knew because there wasn't like any expectation. So it was like a stressful thing, but I didn't have to feel stressed that it's like, it's my first day and I'm already messing up. Because I was, had the flexibility to deal with it and then like continue my work after that.
Yeah, we also encourage people to check out early the first day. Just, it's enough work, just kind of joining a new team and kind of seeing everything that's out there, and there's a lot out there. So just making sure that people know that, they can pace themselves and that they don't need to like dive down the rabbit hole of, reading the company handbook, from day one, kind of helps make it a more mindful and comfortable transition into the company.
And actually, for me, this is like kind of the opposite of that, but I believe that we were given access to like our company accounts the weekend before. So I was very excited about starting and like didn't want to wait till Monday. So I spent some time during the weekend, like just reading and getting familiar and starting to learn things. And that was great for me. So I started on Monday already feeling like a little prepared, without the pressure of having to do all this the first day.
All right, so our next question is, do you archive those 10 fun facts? So I do save all of the ones that are posted, in part just because they're fun and people can check them out later. But it's also nice to share with newcomers as they join, because then they can see what other people have shared before, just in case they're nervous about, oh, what should I share, or I can't think of 10 different things, and it gives them an opportunity to kind of see what's been done before, so that opportunity in itself isn't something that creates any stress for people. All right. What resources or ideas have guided the development of onboarding at Doist? A lot of things. I think, I think upfront, our core values, our core company values are kind of step number one in any process that we design at Doist. So making sure that anything that we're doing is aligned with our core values. I personally have found a lot of value in learning from other organizations as well, and seeing what things they've tried, how they've approached onboarding, like ways they've made it fun, and even just challenges that they've encountered themselves. That helps me as well, kind of through the thought process. And then the most important one, I think, after the values is leveraging the people who are actually going through the onboarding. So I make it a point with every new person who joins our team to let them know that I depend on them as they're going through their onboarding to tell me what's working, what's not, what could be better, and just ideas that they have in general. Because I can sit around and presume what's going to work best for people at Doist, but I have people a message away from me to tell me exactly what's working and what's not. And a lot of the things that we've kind of improved in the onboarding have been a direct result of feedback that I've received from many of those people. And that also has the added benefit then of actively engaging each of those people who joins our team, and making them feel like they're actively a part of making this process beneficial, because then the person who joins after them gets the benefit from the feedback and the ideas that they provided. All right, we have another question here. What about your current onboarding would you improve, if anything? That's a really good question.
I can give some feedback.
live feedback session here.
So like thinking back on my first week, something that was a challenge was just like there isn't a lot of hand-holding going on, because for me, my mentor and my manager are both in Europe and I'm in the US. So we have like a very small overlap with our time zones where we're both working during the day. It's not like terrible, but if I'm not like very intentional about sending a message the night before or like first thing in the morning, we could miss each other for the day. So yeah, it was something that could have been more helpful, was like a bit more, maybe like a daily check-in. The first week we did, I think the expectation or the minimum is like a check-in every Monday, but maybe for that first week, like a quick video check-in each day would have been nice. And yeah, we do a pretty good job, I think, of like having that structure, like it's there. If you choose to take advantage of it, and like, but it's can be a little bit of pressure for the new person to request, hey, can we actually meet every day instead of every week? Because then you're like putting that on your mentor. So yeah, that's some feedback from me.
Thank you. I'm typing it up now. The other thing on just kind of a light note is company swag. We don't do company swag when we have someone joined the team, we haven't figured out a good solution to that yet. When you have people joining all over the world, so it's something we're actively thinking about. But finding a way to get everyone, some nice branded company materials to just kind of feel that company pride, and just kind of have something extra special to start their time with us with.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right. So the next question is, do you use an abbreviated onboarding plan for interns? And if so, what things should I focus on? That's a good question. So we don't have very many interns. Like, it's something that we want to, spend more time on in the future, like really designing a great internship experience at Doist. But much of the upfront onboarding is more focused on kind of company-wide things, like the processes, the resources, things that pretty much everyone in the company will need. And then the more role-specific and team-specific content is done between the newcomer and their mentor and their team head. So a lot of times, and that's how we kind of personalize things as well, because we're able to adapt to the needs of each person. So for example, as an intern, or if an intern were to join the team, of course they're going to need a lot more guidance and more structure in their experience. So that's something that we would definitely need to prioritize in that case. But similarly, like sometimes we have people who join the team who may have less remote work experience, or maybe are more junior in their field, and that kind of gives us a benchmark of what things we might want to prioritize or keep an eye on as we're supporting them and getting them up to speed within the company. All right. Being a remote company, do you find it difficult to work across different time zones? What expectations do you set during the onboarding process, and what challenges have you faced? Yeah, there are several questions there. Stephen, do you want to take a crack at this?
Sure. It's definitely working across time zones I think requires like a shift in the way that you think about how you communicate. Like myself, and then we had another marketing designer join at basically the same time, and both of us had come from not remote settings. So it was like, why do we need to like write everything down and share it publicly when we do overlap so much? But like setting that sort of expectation that this is how we as a company communicate, and having the transparency that like what you write can, or like other people can benefit from reading the things that you're talking about, like helped us sort of understand. And now it's just like, what we're used to, because that's how it works. But yeah, as I was saying before, with the different time zones, you have to be very intentional about like communicating publicly, because if you like, maybe slack a little on sending a message that you needed to talk to someone about, and your time zones don't overlap, that could take like up to 3 days, or at least 3 days to like get a response, not even including the weekend. So yeah, being very thoughtful and intentional about how you're communicating and being cognizant of people's time zones.
Yeah. And I would also add, a lot of times the way that you approach these things has to be based on how your company like communicates and kind of goes through their workflows. Because for us, we work primarily asynchronous. So we don't need to be, on at the same time all the time. Of course, there are points where you want to sync up and get on the same page, but depending on what your company's communication style is, upfront, you want to kind of model that for any newcomer and kind of walk them through what that looks like. And naturally, if they're struggling upfront, kind of understanding, where the struggle is for them and how you might be able to unblock for them. is very helpful up front. And a lot of times these are just things that take some time to get used to, and eventually, people get comfortable. They get used to the way that you communicate and the cadences and all of that.
It takes some like being a little creative too, I think, like especially when it comes to like socializing.
Yeah.
The person at our company, Air, who's a product marketer, recently started to just like suggested an activity that we do, which is like an asynchronous game where people would post like a video they would create of 2 truths and a lie, and then people could vote the next day, and then once it was over, then the next person would like nominate someone else to go. So I thought that was like a really fun, creative idea of how we can do something enjoyable and just like lighthearted amongst the company across time zones and get to know each other better.
Yeah. All right. Our next question is, what can be done during the pre-boarding process to ease the actual onboarding? So there are a number of things. I think upfront, kind of presenting an opportunity for those who have been hired to have a contact point where if they need anything as they're leading up to their start date, they have access to someone. That's usually me, but it can be anyone in the company really that's willing to kind of give that time. Something that we enjoy doing is if we have other Doisters who happen to live near someone who we're hiring, we'll try to get them connected if they're open to that, and have that opportunity for them to potentially meet up before they start, and that can be a really nice way to both get them socially connected with someone on the team, but also to kind of ease some of that the nerves that might come with starting a new job. And then the third thing is kind of having a soft welcome before someone joins the company. And I remember feeling this where I was waiting for my start date and I was like, okay, what's going to happen the first day? Like, do I, is someone gonna like send me something or what do I do the first day? So we send a soft welcome about a week before each person joins, to kind of lay out what the resources we're going to be providing them up front. We introduce them to a few people who they're going to be connected with early on, and just kind of have that as a touch point in case there are any questions like leading up to that point that need to be answered. Steven, do you have anything else to add?
No, I just thought it was funny. I felt the same way. I was like, I guess I just open my computer and then I'm at work like on the first day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me at least, we did like first thing in the morning for me at 9 o'clock, we did like a meeting between myself and my mentor and my team leader. So we kind of like synchronously in that case went through like, this is what you probably should try to work on the first day and set some expectations and those types of things. To like kick off the onboarding. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. That flew by very quickly. So just a couple of things to wrap up, to leave you with related to remote onboarding. If it hasn't been clear already, there's no perfect process. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I promise. Like, you have to kind of try things out and then adapt them as you see fit, as you start to get that feedback and see how they work in practice. But a couple of things that can really, help you take your onboarding to the next level and start at the right point at least is prioritizing your company values and making sure that what you're doing is aligned. And as always, prioritizing that people first approach, because like any people process, it begins and ends with people. So, even if you had a perfect process, if it's not focused on adding value to the people involved, it's not going to have its intended value. So people first. If you're interested in learning more about remote onboarding, or you're just curious about other remote topics, I highly encourage you to check out our blog. It's doist.com/blog. Our remote work academy is also available at twist.com. And there are tons of resources there for onboarding, management, a lot of different things that you might find useful if you're starting to adapt different things to a more remote friendly style. And I'm also personally happy to answer any questions you have online. I think the easiest way to reach me is probably on Twitter. And my handle is just my full name, @AndrewGabron. If you go to Doist's Twitter, you'll probably find me tagged somewhere there. Stephen, do you have any other resources in mind that people might find helpful?
No, I think that's great. The Twist remote guys, I read through them a lot when I was interviewing and doing research for the company, and they're incredibly well written and just like a lot of deep information there to check out. So I definitely encourage people to read those if they're interested. And yeah, likewise, if you have any questions of like for me what it was like being onboarded, you could do the same and reach out to me on Twitter or email. We still use that. So yeah, thank you for tuning in and watching if you're watching later on a pre-recorded thing. We hope it was helpful, and Andrew has a lot of knowledge, so it's good to talk to you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.